What the hell is purgatory? And why is it more human than heaven and hell combined? Let's get straight to the point. Purgatory is the land of the screwed up who still have salvation. They are not the untouchable saints of heaven, nor the irredeemable scoundrels of hell. They are the broken, the messed up. People like you and me, who screw up but still have a shred of decency to try and get better. It's literally the place for a second chance. But don't come with fluffy self-help talk, because the price of this second chance is what hurts the most, facing yourself. Unlike hell, which is an eternal horror show for those already condemned, purgatory is a temporary stage, like a rehabilitation clinic. There's no fire, no demons with tridents, or people screaming eternally for help. There's queuing, dust, silence, and a lot of painful reflection. And the weirdest part? The souls want to be there. They know they deserve that struggle and they accept it. Why? Because there's light at the end of the mountain. Because they know that, after all that process, they will come out clean. With scars, yes, but clean. Dante didn't create a purgatory just to fill space between extremes. He created the most human place in the entire work. Because true humanity is not in those who are already perfect, nor in those who are lost forever. It's in those who struggle with their vices, carry guilt, but keep climbing. It's in those who wake up every day burdened and still don't give up on being a better person. And here's the insight. Purgatory is not just a mountain in Dante's medieval universe. It's a symbolic mirror of real life. How many times have you felt trapped in a cycle of regret, trying to redeem yourself for something you did, trying to improve your habits, your mind, your attitudes, while the world demands immediate results and zero failure? Well, there you go. Welcome to modern purgatory. By the way, what makes it so much more interesting than heaven and hell is precisely this. There's a process there. Heaven is static. It's already done. Hell too. But purgatory is movement. It's a journey. It's sweat, stumbling, progress. It's where character is forged through beating, where pride is scraped off like a bad tattoo, where the ego is tripped daily until it learns to walk straight. And if you think this sounds familiar, it's no coincidence. Most people live life in purgatory mode, trying to be better but stumbling over the same shit, knowing what they have to do but too lazy or afraid to change, seeking redemption even without calling it that. Well, there you go. Welcome to modern purgatory. So, if you're still trying to get it right, even after screwing up a lot, if you still feel guilty but also want to do things differently, if you haven't become a saint yet but aren't a lost cause either, congratulations, you're in purgatory. And want to know something else? That's not a disaster. It's a chance.
The mountain of shame, why the climb hurts and is necessary. In Dante's Purgatory, the soul doesn't fall, it climbs. And that, my friend, is the greatest punishment disguised as a blessing anyone can receive. Because climbing a mountain isn't poetic. It's sweaty, tiring, and demands much more than faith in God or Instagram-style catchphrases. It demands one thing many people don't have: the guts to face their own mistakes. Dante puts us on a giant mountain, divided into levels, where each floor is a different beating for a type of sin. But before you think, oh, it's just climbing and that's it, let me cut the illusion. There are no shortcuts. There's no spiritual elevator, no Brazilian jeitinho. Every step has to be faced with your face in the mud and your ego crushed like a cockroach. And do you know what the entry currency for this climb is? Shame. But not that silly shame of slipping on the street. It's existential shame. The kind that visits you at 3 in the morning and whispers, "Congratulations, idiot. Look what you did with your life." The shame of knowing you could have been better, but chose the easy path. And that's why purgatory begins with the mountain of shame. You need to feel the weight of the crap you did to have the motivation to climb. Deep down, the climb is a cruel and beautiful metaphor for maturing, because growing hurts, changing hurts, evolving hurts. Do you know what doesn't hurt? Staying stagnant, stuffing yourself with distractions, being a functional zombie in your routine. But climbing, Climbing requires humility. It requires admitting you made mistakes, that you don't know everything, that you're fragile. And that admission is a hell in itself. The brilliant part of Purgatory is this. Dante realized that true redemption doesn't come from a miracle or a well-made prayer. It comes from the repeated, disciplined, and painful action of those who face their shadows and keep walking. The mountain is not punishment, it is process. And that's why it's necessary. Practical example, everyone who's had to rebuild their life after a big screw-up, an addiction, a betrayal, a humiliating failure, knows that the beginning seems impossible. But after you swallow your pride, face the mirror, and start climbing, each step becomes a new brick in your character. And of course, there are people who prefer to die at the bottom of the well than take the first step up. Why? Because climbing hurts, and some people prefer the pain of stagnation to the suffering of transformation. But the mountain is still there, and every day you ignore it, it gets steeper, heavier. Dante didn't create the mountain to be beautiful. He created it to remind you that the path to redemption is steep, sweaty, and full of rocks, but it's also the only path truly worth it.
7 floors, 7 sins. The soul's most hardcore detox. Forget that talk of 7-day detox with green juice and gratitude. The true detox happens with struggle, sweat, tears, and deep emotional discomfort. In Dante's Purgatory, this soul cleansing has no spa, incense, or mantra. It has 7 floors, each dedicated to a deadly sin. 7 levels of suffering carefully calibrated to peel you like an onion, layer by layer, until only what's good remains, if anything remains at all. Let's be real, these sins aren't in an old book by chance. They remain relevant because they are still the biggest viruses of the modern soul. Dante's Purgatory is not just criticizing what we do, but why we do it. He understands that sins are symptoms of a dysregulated soul. And the cure? It's not prayer, it's confrontation. It's climbing the floors of the mountain and facing each one head-on. First floor, pride. Here you learn, the hard way, that you are not the center of the universe, that no one owes you anything, that if you think you're better than others, congratulations, it's just inflated ego trying to hide a pathetic fear of not being enough. Second floor, envy. The people here walk with their eyelids shown shut. Do you know why? Because they spent their lives looking sideways instead of looking inward, comparing themselves, corroding themselves, desiring what belongs to others while neglecting their own garden. Sound familiar? Third, wrath. Here are those who exploded over anything. They screamed, fought, wanted to impose everything by force. In Purgatory, they walk in a cloud of smoke. Because living consumed by anger is exactly that, walking blind, stumbling over others and yourself. Fourth floor, sloth. It's not the laziness of not making your bed. It's that internal sluggishness, that apathy that makes you accept the lukewarm life, without effort, without purpose. They are the living dead who breathe but do not live. Here, they are forced to run non-stop, because only the hard way do they realize how much they stood still while the world turned. Fifth, avarice. The crowd that lived accumulating, controlling, afraid of losing. People who traded human connections for spreadsheets and safes. In Purgatory, they are crushed by the weight of what they accumulated. Literally. They carry giant stones as if it were their own ego packaged in gold. Sixth, gluttony. And it's not just food. It's compulsion. It's excess. It's filling the inner void with anything external. Food, drink, shopping, sex, likes. Here, they starve. Because only at the extreme opposite do they learn the difference between hunger and an emotional hole. Seventh floor, lust. Uncontrolled desire, love distorted into obsession. Here, sinners burn in purifying flames,
because they confuse pleasure with affection. And now they need to burn off the unhealthy attachment to understand what really matters. 7 floors, 7 cents, 7 ways to destroy yourself from the inside while pretending everything is fine. Dante didn't write this to scare. He wrote it to poke, to show that before going to heaven, you need to descend into the trash of your soul, pick up all the rotten things you've accumulated, and throw them away. 1 floor at a time. And that, my friend, is the true detox.
The punishments that heal, and why pain can be the best teacher. Let's face the facts. Nobody learns by osmosis. There is no growth without discomfort. The truth is, often, pain is the only teacher we truly listen to. And Dante understood this before any gourmet internet coach. In Purgatory, pain is not punishment, it's medicine. Bitter, yes, but incredibly effective. While Dante's Hell is a horror show with no exit, where punishment is a perpetual sentence, Purgatory is different. Here, pain has an expiration date. It exists for a single purpose, to correct, not to punish. And that's exactly what makes the suffering here 1,000 times more powerful. Because the soul that suffers in Purgatory is not condemned, it is being trained. And how does Dante do this training? With methods that would make any modern therapist lose their license. The proud? They walk bent, carrying enormous stones on their backs, because pride only dissolves when you are forced to look at the ground and realize you're not so tall after all. The envious? They sew their eyelids with wire. Do you know why? Because they spent their lives looking at other people's lives. Now they have to learn to look inward, even if it hurts. It's not random. Each punishment is tailor-made to attack the root of the sin. It's not to humiliate, it's to transform. Because Dante knew what many people forget. Only those who suffer just enough change. It's not the suffering that defines you, it's what you do with it. Today, most people run from pain like the devil from a cross. Any sign of discomfort and we're already asking for an anxiolytic, an escape, a distraction. But do you know what we don't realize? That this escape prolongs the crap. Avoiding discomfort only postpones the cure. Because there is pain that is not punishment. It is a sign. It's a warning that you're off balance, that something needs to be adjusted. Ignoring this pain is like turning off the fire alarm and continuing to sleep while the house is on fire. Dante doesn't romanticize suffering. He shows that pain, when used intelligently, is the necessary polishing to remove the dirt and reveal what's good in you. Ultimately, Purgatory is the gym of the soul. Each punishment is a heavy workout, an emotional squat that breaks, hurts, tears, but builds you. Practical example? Have you ever screwed up so badly in a choice that you swore never to repeat it? Welcome to Purgatory. The difference is, there, the process is literal. Here, it's psychological. But the logic is the same. Pain is only useless when you don't learn a damn thing from it. So next time life gives you a beating, maybe, just maybe, it's trying to teach you something. It's not to destroy you. It's to rebuild you properly.
Virgil, Beatrice, and the end of the rational guide, when logic dies and love enters. Throughout his journey so far, Dante had no one less than Virgil by his side. The Roman poet, the voice of reason, the one who represents everything that is logical, coherent, structured. A true moral GPS with an eternal battery. Virgil is the father of rhetoric, intellectual discipline, reason as a guide. And while hell is a place where reasoning must dominate chaos, in Purgatory it begins to fail. Because at a certain point on the mountain, logic dies. And what takes its place? Love. But not that romantic comedy Netflix love. It's love as a force that moves, transforms, elevates. Virgil's departure is a punch to the gut, because until now he was Dante's safe harbor.
But there comes a time when reasoning, however good, cannot cope with what comes next. It's the limit of the human mind, and this is Dante's brilliant point. He shows you that reason is great for getting you out of a hole, but it's not what takes you to the top. For that, you'll need something more primitive and more powerful. Faith, intuition, emotion. Beatrice. Beatrice enters the story as someone who doesn't give a damn about explanations. She doesn't need to justify anything. She is. She represents the ideal, the deep meaning, the transcendental beauty that doesn't fit into formulas. And Dante, who until then relied on logic, simply collapses when he sees her. Because that's what true love does to us. It disassembles, it tears, it exposes, and at the same time, it rebuilds. Virgil bids farewell and says, "I brought you this far, but from now on, it's with her." And this is as symbolic as it is painful, because there comes a time when you need to let go of control, accept that not everything can be solved with logic, and let something greater lead. Call it love, faith, vocation, purpose. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that the rational guide has its limits, and Dante's spiritual mountain requires a surrender that reason cannot give. This transition is about maturity, about recognizing that intellect is a tool, not a throne, that life is not limited to what can be explained, and that sometimes to move forward, you need to make the most difficult move of all. Trust the invisible. Deep down, this part of the journey shows that true growth begins where logic ends, when you no longer have ready answers, when control slips away, when all that's left is the faith that moving forward, even in the dark, is still worth it. And that, my friend, is the kind of courage no diploma teaches. Beatrice is not just any guide. She is the calling. She is the reminder that you were made for more. That the soul doesn't just want to understand, it wants to feel. And to climb to paradise, feeling is mandatory. Free will, discipline, and sacrifice, the price of wanting to evolve. Everyone says they want to evolve until life sends the bill. Then begins the crying, the whining, the search for shortcuts, for three-step courses, for TikTok gurus. But Dante has no patience for that. In Purgatory, growth is a choice, and it's expensive. There's pain, there's sweat, there's silence, there's emptiness. And above all, there's free will. Yes, that pretty little word we love to quote when we want to justify our mistakes with an air of, it was just a phase. But here, Dante rubs in our face that free will is not a carte blanche to screw up and then apologize crying. It's responsibility. It's you choosing every day not to be an asshole. In Purgatory, souls are not there for punishment. They're there because they wanted to change, because they understood they were broken and chose to fix themselves. No one was dragged. Everyone is there because they want to be better. And this is where the second element comes in: discipline. No miracles, no manifesting success. The soul that wants to climb needs to walk the path. A slow, painful ascent, each sin torn out with tweezers and spit. It's like a gym for the soul. It's no use paying for the plan if you don't lift weights. The price of evolution is daily. It's waking up and saying, today I'm going to be a little less of a jerk than yesterday, and repeating that until you die. Want real examples? That person who decides to stop lying to themselves and face that the relationship they're in is a sham. Or the guy who realizes that anger isn't strength. It's emotional neediness with an alpha male cloak. Or you, who are reading this now and know there's a part of your life where you keep sabotaging yourself and calling it a comfort zone. Nothing changes unless you change, and changing requires the third ingredient: sacrifice. Because growing hurts. It demands that you let go of who you were.
that you let die that you who knew everything, who was always right, who defended himself with sarcasm and pride. Sacrifice isn't just losing what's bad. It's letting go of what keeps you safe but stagnant. And you know the great irony? Many people want freedom but don't accept the price of choice. They want to be free but don't want to give up the comfortable cage. But Dante shows that in Purgatory, true freedom comes from responsibility, from you accepting that every step is yours, that no one will save you, and that evolving is not magic. It's dirty, tiring work, and yes, totally voluntary. Want to evolve? Great. Just don't pretend to be surprised when life charges the price.
The reunion with Beatrice, the most elegant slap in the face in history. If you think being dumped hurts, it's because you've never been judged by the woman you idolize in front of a celestial audience. Dante, the passionate poet, went through all of hell, climbed the damn mountain, faced internal and external demons, just to finally meet Beatrice, the muse of his life. And what does he get? A warm hug? A congratulations, my angel? No. He gets an emotional slap in the face so well delivered, so well argued, that it makes therapy seem like a happy ending massage. Beatrice arrives like an avalanche of lucidity. She doesn't smile, doesn't melt, doesn't say good to see you. She looks at him with the cutting coldness of someone who saw every screw-up he made and says, "You thought that just because you suffered a little, you deserved my affection? No, my dear, you got lost, and I saw it." And that's when Dante collapses, because Beatrice isn't there to inflate his ego. She's there to put him back on track, even if it costs tears, shame, and a shattered soul. And she does it with class. She doesn't yell, doesn't humiliate, but every word is a sharp razor. And honestly, he needed it. Beatrice represents that part of life that loves you enough not to coddle you. That rare friend who says, "You're being a jerk," with the honesty of someone who doesn't want to please you, but wants to save you. And Dante finally listens. Because sometimes the truth only enters when it's spoken with love and firmness. That's what makes this reunion so powerful. It's not cute, it's necessary. She reminds Dante of why he started this whole damn thing. She pulls him from the depths of himself and shows him what he lost by letting himself be carried away by instincts, by ego, by the world's distractions. She rubs in his face that true love doesn't accept half measures. Either you come whole or you stay where you are. And let's be honest, how many times do we need a Beatrice in our lives? Someone who doesn't pat us on the head but shows us where we went wrong with elegance and impact. Someone who calls us to greatness, not convenience. And the truth is, most people run from people like that. They prefer flatterers, those who feed the illusion. Dante didn't run. He stayed. He cried. He bowed. And that's why he could go on. Because the reunion with Beatrice is not the happy ending. It's the beginning of real responsibility. It's the moment when Dante stops being a spiritual tourist and becomes someone worthy of entering paradise.
The earthly paradise. What happens when you face all your demons? It's time for the great revelation, the moment of final euphoria. Dante climbs the mountain, faces all the sins, carries his emotional burdens, faces his ghosts, and finally reaches the summit. What awaits him? The earthly paradise. And what is this paradise? The place where everything is perfect, right? Wrong. The earthly paradise is the place of naked and raw truth. It's not about rest or golden light. It's about facing the totality of what you are and who you truly became after facing your personal hell. In the end, there is no real paradise if you haven't gone through the process of destruction and reconstruction. Or more specifically, if you haven't faced all your demons. What Dante sees there is not a place full of flowers and singing angels. He finds full self-awareness. This is the earthly paradise, the confrontation with your own soul without escapism. Here, there's no more room to ignore anything. There's no more running from yourself. This place is not just a reward for climbing the mountain. The earthly paradise is a mirror. It reflects the person you are after all the suffering, all the transformation. It reveals what remains of you after so many difficult choices, so many moments of breaking and rebuilding. The earthly paradise doesn't give you a ticket to celestial paradise. It gives you an honest look at your soul. And often, that's more painful than hell. Because only when you embody your totality do you see how far or close you were to your true self. Now, an important detail. What Dante sees there is Beatrice, but not as an idealized romantic woman. She is the reflection of everything he was capable of achieving, a clear and vivid vision of transcendental love, but also of the emotional cost of that love. Beatrice is not there to be a perfect goddess who receives Dante with open arms. She is the symbol of love that demands transformation. No matter how beautiful or pure Dante's feeling was, he could not reach her without first confronting all aspects of his own being. When we face our earthly paradise, we are facing the reality of what we truly are after our efforts, our falls, and our achievements. The point here is that true paradise is never out there. It's within you. It's in the process of facing your shadows, of dealing with what you thought was unimaginable, of looking in the mirror and accepting yourself, but not for the comfortable version of who you'd like to be, but for the true version you chose to be. And make no mistake, this is hard work. There's no climbing the mountain without carrying your flaws. There's no reaching the earthly paradise without looking at the things you really don't want to see. You only get there if you have the courage to see the truth unfiltered. So the earthly paradise is not an endpoint, it's a turning point. It forces you to face who you have become and then makes you make a decision. Either you pretend everything is fine and fall again, or you accept the continuous work of evolution, understanding that paradise is not a destination, it's the path.